You were made not to live from mere material realities. You were made for invisible realities, extraordinary places and experiences, even other beings that will affect how you live, not just for 80 or 90 years, but eternity. In this series, I will look at how to see, to grasp, to interact with that greater reality. Why live from the invisible? Because God does. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 3 says, "By faith we understand that the universe was created by the word of God, so that what was seen was not made out of things that are visible." So God formed something within himself. He designed it, invisible, within himself. Then he did something that the scriptures describe as God spoke, and it was. It became visible. In the words of Paul the Apostle, God speaks things that are not as if they were, and then they are. It's a fundamental basis upon which reality exists. Invisible to visible. We are to live our lives not from what is in front of us, but what is, as of yet, not fully formed, not yet visible. There was a time when I was praying and I got caught up into the heavens. And I was in a treasury room. That's the only way I can describe it. It was gold, it was jewels, it was beautiful. And I'm marveling at this place. And as I'm marveling at it, I realize I am standing right by a tall being who looks like he's golden. And as he comes into focus for me, he says strongly to me, "No one comes here without the provision of the Lord happening." And as he said this, I grasped this sense of substance, like I was going to get provision. And the next thing I know, it's like he pushed me out, and I was back looking at the room I was praying in. And I thought, wow, what was that about and what's going to happen? 3 days later, I get a phone call from some solicitors trying to get hold of me. I'm thinking, why are they trying to get hold of me? I mean, am I in trouble for some reason? Eventually, I call them back and I say, "I believe you're trying to get hold of me." At first they say no, and then they say, "Oh, Mr. Hopkins, oh yes, let me put you through to the right person." And then I'm put through to someone and she says, "So, Mr. Hopkins, how would you like the money?" I went, "Sorry?" And she said, "Oh, didn't someone explain? We're dealing with the will of someone, and they've left you some money, and they say you wouldn't know who they are, and there's no point in explaining that, but how would you like the money? Because we want to resolve this will." And a substantial amount of money was deposited into my account. And I made the connection between this engagement with invisible realities, receiving something, and then the money arrives in my bank account. Living from the invisible. Let it be where your life direction is drawn from. Look at Abraham's life in the scriptures. In the book of Hebrews, it says that Abraham left a city looking for a city. He would have probably understood that his offspring, that he was promised, would populate that city. And yet that's impossible for him because he can't have children. Yet he believes this invisible, impossible reality and orders his life around it, and believes that his descendants will fill this city, wherever it is, this supernatural city somehow. He grasped this promise, this unseen reality, and he lived from it. And as we read the scriptures, some of these dynamic supernatural realities can get clouded because of our religious understanding of terms and expressions. This whole process of living from the invisible is called faith. And this faith is, as far as God is concerned, righteousness. Now, righteousness is an intimate walk with God. It comes from seeing and grasping the promise and hope that's invisible, the invisible realities, and living from them and towards them. That label, righteousness, is given to the result of that process. You have intimacy with God. You get involved with God's ways of living and doing things. You have intimate connection. Righteousness does not come from having a holy life. A holy life comes from walking with God in that righteous, deep, intimate connection where you're receiving and trusting the invisible things that are opening up for you and walking in them. Hebrews 11:13 unpacks that process. You see it, as it were, in the distance, an invisible reality, and you embrace it now so that it becomes part of your life now. And other people around you might go, what are you doing? What are you living from? We can't see it, but you can see it and you've grasped it. That's righteousness. And living from it will bring true life streams within you that will persist through and beyond your physical life. It may not fully be visible in your entire lifetime, like the heroes from the chapter 11 in the book of Hebrews, but it will come. You start to live beyond the limits of your own earthly lifespan. God is a rewarder of those who seek him. The nature of reality is wired so that drawing near to God, drawing near by seeing the invisible and walking from him in his ways, living from that, is the most beneficial way to live. That's the way reality is set up. And that reward isn't material things. They may come. But the reward is the intimate connection with God. Being like him. Seeing the invisible and walking, engaging with it till it's fully revealed. These three things go on, Paul says. Faith, hope, and love. Faith being seeing the invisible realities and living from them. Abraham did it. I'm doing it. You can do it. Right now, you're surrounded by those realities, pressing in on you, waiting to be seen and lived from. The heavenly city that Abraham looked for can be grasped by you. It's real. In this series, I'm going to look at using your imagination, having visions, using the eyes of your heart. I'm going to look at the cloud of witnesses, how to engage with the cloud of witnesses. I'm going to look at the necessity of interaction with the heavenly city. We'll look at who are the assembly of the firstborn that the writer of Hebrews talks about, and who are the angels in gathering that he talks about. And of course, most importantly, your involvement. Subscribe to get notified of when these videos come out. Like this video if you want others to hear this. Become a Patreon supporter and join in the discussion and questions and answer sessions. And thank you to all my patrons for partnering with me to make these revelations get out to more people. Be blessed.